Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Uranium Energy. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have been tracking a couple of ideas. It has evolved into a couple of ideas really, because we start here with a series of 1-2 setups where ideally we would have liked to see a third wave unfold to the upside. Now the issue is we do not have enough strength within this structure as of yet. We are also lacking an impulse which would be required based on the larger pattern, and we need to consider a couple of other options. So firstly, it is possible that we are building yet another wave 1 to the upside, and we have a wave 2 correction that we expect before the wave 3 itself. That would have very bullish implications. It would be all quite great if we actually unfold. We would see very strong extensions to higher prices. But I'm starting to consider that it is more and more possible that this would have been still part of the initial wave 1 from this area, and that we would still be looking at a wave 2 correction, but it would be much more substantial, and we could easily be looking to retrace even below the beginning of this entire uptrend, below even the $3.8 level with very much ease. Now, in either case, we would be looking for a more substantial correction once we form a top within this area. The severity of it could depend based on the larger perspective, the larger time frame, but that will remain to be seen. Now, theoretically, within this structure, we could still be tracking it as a series of 1-2 setups in this area, but it's not a very realistic expectation. And even now, within the current pattern, we would still be looking to create another 1-2 setup. Even this doesn't seem to be a wave 3 itself, as the internal structure is corrective itself. So we have been focusing on this idea of a diagonal structure to be built within this area, and we had great success tracking even this structure. Now, of course, initially we were looking for a potential impulse, especially based on the initial push within this area, and we have had very many successful trade setups, and the latest one and the most relevant one has been here within this larger area of support that we have marked as an accumulation area, where we even managed to very accurately estimate when we should expect a bottom to be in place, and we were looking exactly for a 3-wave correction as we see here on the chart. Now, before we move into the smaller time frame, I wanted to briefly mention our channel newsletter, where you get access to our monthly top picks, where we identify for you those high quality structures that can provide such upside, such as this, such as we have here, where you will have the possibility to enter within the area of support, and you will have clearly defined levels where the structure shifts into a much less probable pattern that would tell you early that the structure, that the pattern is going to fail, creating the expected follow-up movement. Now, for this structure, this would have been the $9 level. With a break below that, we would have been looking for a more direct failure, but that did not happen. We managed to follow through very nicely within our expectations, and this is what you can expect from our newsletter, to have the concise assets that you can track for such opportunities, and you can follow them along with us on the channel. Now, that is completely free, the newsletter, but if you enjoy the content and you want to support us, you can check out our channel membership. The link for that is in the description as well, or you can click the join button and you will get access to additional content. And if you want more details on the membership or even on the newsletter, you can check out our channel update video. It's on the channel page. Now, back to the chart. Within this structure, we have been looking at a diagonal pattern. I have mentioned this a few minutes ago. This means that within this 5th wave, we do not expect to build a 5-wave pattern, and instead we are only really expecting a 3-wave movement to occur within this area, and we may be very close to a top in such an expectation. Now, in the previous videos, we have provided this area of support for continuation to higher prices still within a 5th wave of a wave C of a larger 5th wave. This is already within a risky territory, and we have the $14.2 level to look for higher prices against. a sustained break below the $14.2 level is our signal, our strong suggestion that this structure is not to be trusted anymore. Now, of course, even though this is also a diagonal structure, it is within a much smaller time frame and it doesn't have the same reliability as the larger area of support in white had, but it still has clearly defined levels and we are deep within the area of support even now still. Now, within this structure to the upside, we might be looking at extensions and I will continue to track potential continuation to higher prices until we break the relevant levels of support. Currently, that sits at the $14.2. And in a case where we might be building instead a 5-wave pattern within this area, I will potentially be looking for a larger A, B, C structure to unfold. I will still have levels of support even once we have a full count within this area that will allow me to look for continuation to higher prices, but that will be within a very high risk interpretation where it is much preferred that we will wait for an initial smaller time frame confirmation by creating an initial 5-wave move to the upside before looking for a potential trade setup on this chart. At this point, the risk is already high, but we do not have a clearly full count yet, which is why we are still looking for one more high before we consider this pattern complete. Now, once again, we are looking for that against the $14.2 level, and if we are to consider the count that we actually have here on this chart, the area of support we would be tracking would shift slightly higher because this was for the possibility of a wave 3, and in this case, we would have already pushed into the last level of support within this wave 4 correction. I have highlighted this to you in probably every single video for this chart, but the $14.4 level was the last level of support for this count, for this wave 4 within this wave C to the upside, but we still want to allow the larger area just on the off chance that this is building a leading diagonal within a wave A, yeah? This wave A extends to higher prices and then we get a wave B and another wave C to the upside, because if we build a 5-wave pattern within this area, we would still be looking with higher probabilities for continuation to even higher prices. Now, within the smaller time frame, we have been tracking a couple of bearish interpretations, a couple of bearish structures already, and not this one, but this yellow movement to the downside was allowing us to look for a potential leading diagonal that would have formed, and we had an area of resistance up to the $19 level that would have told us with high probabilities we should expect at least another 5-wave move to the downside. Now, since we have actually achieved this, I am even open to considering that this is an ABC structure complete. I actually do not need any additional extensions lower in the interpretation of this wave 4, so it has made the intention of the structure much less clear, but it does also allow right now the possibility for a wave 4 bottom to be much more likely in place. It has unfortunately reached a point where the probabilities are quite unclear in terms of which pattern is more likely to unfold, the bullish structure or the bearish interpretation. Because here, within this yellow structure, I may even consider that this would have been an extension of the 5th wave. We have here a quite clear A, B, C pattern in this area where very easily I could consider this to be a wave C in a 5-wave pattern to the downside within this area. Yeah, actually very nice structure. And in the previous video, we have actually been considering this to be a potential 1-2 setup in orange. We seem to have extended to lower prices and I have to readjust the expectations, but I would still be looking for a potential 1-2 setup in the orange interpretation. So nothing too special really happened within this orange structure. We just got an extension of the wave to the downside. I would just consider that this is still a wave 1 and we would adjust the area of resistance, but nothing substantial would have really shifted. And I would be looking at the last level of resistance currently at the $16.7 for this wave 2 correction. A break above that would strongly shift the probabilities to at least going into the large area of resistance in yellow, which itself I would consider has gotten an extension. Now, we have two interpretations for the bearish case, one within a smaller time frame, the orange structure, the orange scenario, and one for the large pattern, which is just an extension of a wave A in a leading diagonal, where we have the last level of resistance at the $18.9. If we break Even above that, it would be a strong suggestion that this green structure is very likely winning and that we are looking for the fifth wave to the upside. Now, to clearly define what our expectations are. In yellow, we are looking for a potential initial 5-wave move to the downside still, yeah? We just consider this to have been an extension of the fifth wave itself. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. I would consider this to be a potential wave A. We could be looking for a wave B correction up to the $18.9, and we would expect a wave C to the downside still. We are within a high risk area indeed. Then, in the orange structure, we are looking for a potential 1-2 setup in this area. Smaller time frame resistance, it would assume that either the wave A in yellow has bottomed here or that it would still be ongoing as we push to even lower prices, and it would be something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. Either one of these patterns would have the same area of resistance in the end, and it would be the $16.7 level. Now, which pattern is more likely to unfold is extremely difficult to tell currently, but we have the levels of resistance and the levels of support clearly defined. And any of you who would have accumulated within this larger area of support in white would still be in profit even once we actually break our green area of support that extends down to the $14.2. Yeah? Even if you have a stop loss at, let's say, just below the $14 level, you would still be expected to close in profits if you used our accumulation area. Now, from a smaller time frame perspective, we could be looking here for an initial 5-wave move to the upside in this area in a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, but I have to say, don't really trust this pattern. It looks somewhat decent, might be better if it was within a large time frame, but as it stands right now, I'm watching the levels between the $15.7 all the way down to the $14.8, and a break below the 78.6% retracement is already a first indication that this structure is likely not going to hold here in this potential 1-2 setup, or even an A, B, C structure. Doesn't really matter, we have the same area of support for both. But for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.